that. Great. So yeah, welcome all. We have a small group today, but wanted to welcome you all here. And typically we start these meetings with just checking in and dropping your name and where you're calling from into the chat and some kind of check-in item. I know we're pretty small, so I guess if folks wanted to either unmute themselves and share, just because we are a smaller group, feel free to do that. So your name, where you're joining from, and what you're grateful for. I feel like that is something that I keep coming back to in these times of great chaos and unsettlement. So we've got Margaret Worth from Marlington, West Virginia. Hi, Margaret. Alexandra Kovatz from Oregon. And I think I see a few new faces. Is anybody joining us for the first time? Mary, welcome. Just a really warm welcome to you. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so Oshkosh is about halfway between Milwaukee and Green Bay on the eastern side of the state. And I'm coming to you tonight as kind of a volunteer I'm a part of a Pax Christi group that we meet monthly at a Catholic worker house in the little town of Amro, Wisconsin. A Catholic worker, I saw that, yeah. The Catholic worker house was founded by a really dear friend of mine, Father Joe Matern, kind of a rebel priest who I just love to pieces. And we have spent, we're a group of about 8 to 10 people, and we have spent the last 10 months focusing on reading the book, The Order of the Sacred Earth, and discussing it. And man, I'm not going to ever be able to lend this to anybody because it's so marked up in so many little notes. And we've had some really wonderful discussions on this book. And we're in a period of discernment now, whether some of us may decide to take the oath to the Order of the Sacred Earth. And we take that very seriously. And if we do, we plan to have some sort of small rite to make it more meaningful and purposeful. So I'm here just to see what's going on and what you guys, how we could maybe become more involved in if we wanted to. So I'm observing, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. I'm so excited to hear where you are and sort of the beginning, the initial stages leading up to taking the vow. That's a very precious time. Yeah. So since I think this is probably a really good segue to sort of welcoming you all into this space. So typically our council calls are broken into segments where we have our introduction. Believe we have a guest speaker that will be joining. We'll hear reflections from Matthew. And then we'll move into the second half where we will open it up to hear the wisdom of the folks that are on the call. So some of us are, old guard, have been part of the Order of the Sacred Earth for quite a while now, who have established pods, who share updates about things that they have been doing in their pods. And then folks that are either new or interested or just curious and wanting to learn more, we open up the space for them to either ask questions about the order, and to just learn from each other and connect. I've seen some really beautiful, unexpected connections form through these calls. So grateful for that. And I'll just read out the rest of the names that filled the chat here. So welcome to Joe, Alan, Dawn, Jesse, Kim, Jill, Liz. Thank you. I see some old faces from Shelburne, which is really lovely to see. And with that, I will pass it over to Skylar. I don't know if you wanted to do a quick update before Matthew and then to our guest speaker.
Sure. Well, the first update, thanks, Marika. It's great to be here today. And our sitter canceled, unfortunately, and so I've got my boys who are awesome and also a little bit cranky right now with me. So thanks for bearing with me around that. And also our speaker today did cancel as well, kind of last minute. He said that next month would work a lot better for him, but I'll just say that their organization is called Hylo. It's HYLO, and it's a platform that they've built already, and it's something that it's very similar to some ideas for how we can come together in community, online, and in person. It's a bioregional platform to help earth activists, earth-based farmers, permaculturists, people who are tending the land, get support, involve people in projects, and also provide food in a good way to local people that need food. So it's a platform to help all of that happen. And so definitely, if you can come next month, these meetings are on the last Tuesday of every month, because it feels like there's a lot of space for the OSC to partner with them and to use that platform to create bioregional networks where we're tending the earth together and kind of getting out of some of the problematic patterns that happen as a result of capitalism and reductivist, philosophy and all of that. So so I'll leave it there, so I can hear my kids yelling in the background and hooray. But yeah, so I'll pass it over to Matthew Fox.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Skylar and Mariko. I'm glad both of you are getting through your COVID. And I was a little freaked out when I couldn't get online today for this meeting, because I had a 2.5 hour experience with AT&T today where I couldn't get online. And so I thought it was part of that, but I'm kind of relieved to know it wasn't. So I thought, for beginning, a little prayer from Thomas Merton seemed in order. I have his picture behind me here. That's a painting that's on the cover of my book on Merton, Way to God, Thomas Merton's Creative Spirituality Journey. But the fellow who did that painting is actually in a Mexican bowl. That painting is in a wooden bowl. And the fellow who did it is Jewish, close friend of Reb Zalman, Nathaniel Eve. And he was very admiring of Thomas Merton. And of course, Reb Zalman went and visited Merton in Merton's hermitage. And he tells a story of how in the evening they sang the Psalms together on his front porch in Hebrew, and in Reb Zalman would sing in Hebrew, and then Tom would sing in Latin. So that was fun for them. That was their idea of fun. But it does sound like fun. And I was glad to hear from a Catholic worker movement person in Wisconsin, not only because I'm from Wisconsin, but because Merton, of course, had a close friendship with Dorothy Day, the founder of Catholic Worker, and of course with Berrigan Brothers, one of whom was very involved in the Catholic Worker. So it seemed fitting to offer a few prayers of Merton's kind of prayers, especially at this time of summer solstice. He says, everything that is holy. Everything that is holy. The forms and individual characters of living and growing things, of inanimate beings, of animals and flowers and all nature constitute their holiness in the sight of God. The special clumsy beauty of this particular colt on this April day in this field under these clouds is a holiness consecrated to God by his own creative wisdom, and it declares the glory of God. The plain flowers of the dogwood outside this window are saints. The little yellow flowers that nobody notices on the edge of that road are saints looking up into the face of God. This leaf has its own texture and its own pattern of veins and its own holy shape. And the bass and trout hiding in the deep pools of the river are canonized by their beauty and their strength. The lakes hidden among the hills are saints. And the sea too is a saint who praises God without interruption in her majestic dance. The great gashed half-naked mountain is another of God's saints. There is no other like him. He is alone in his own character. Nothing else in the world ever did or ever will imitate God in quite the same way. That is his sanctity. The goodness of the world, stricken or not, is incontestable and definitive. If it is stricken, it's also healed in Christ. So I think those are kind of blessed prayers and thoughts as we get started today. And as Mariko alluded to, the week has been a tough one, but I think it does bless us to step out of humanity's folly and foolishness and and stupidity and death wishes to see the bigger world of saints and holiness. And I think Thomas Merton helps us to do that. Now, can I just say, I'm delighted to hear that Alexandra Kovacs is here, but I don't see her picture. I'd love to see her picture. Haven't seen her in years. Are you there on video, Alexandra? I just see your name, but I'm hoping we'll be able to see you. Ooh, here she is appearing. Is it the Alexandra? I was wondering, is there another Alexandra Kovacs someplace?
No, it is I, Matthew.
There is only one.
Our band
Okay.
is really bad here on the coast of Oregon, so that's why it's easier for me not to struggle with the technology and be dark.
I see. Okay, so you're mysterious this time around. It was great to hear your voice and to imagine that that's your picture. So welcome.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Alexandra was on my faculty for many years at the university, a very beloved teacher. Among other things, she's very good at spiritual direction, and she's lived an exciting life, having fled from Hungary as a child during the revolution of, was it 56, if I recall my history correct. Anyway, good to be with you, Alexandra. Welcome to Order of the Sacred Earth meeting. Okay. So back to you, Mariko.
Thank you for that.
Or Skylar, whoever is running the show today.
Well, we can tag team it, but just
Sure.
really appreciating the joy of connection, just seeing you now, Matthew and Alexandra, and just how precious community is. I've had a lot of connection this past week, and I'm just feeling it on a deeper level and just so grateful for the people that hold me far and near. I'm with my family now, and that's just speaking. It's medicine for my soul to be with people. And so grateful for communities like this where we can come together and share like the highs and the lows and the weird gray spaces that we're in currently. Yeah, and weathering it together. So without a guest speaker, I guess we could probably move into the Wisdom Council portion of the call. I see a nod from Skylar. Would you like to add anything?
Sure, thank you. I'll just add that this is really the intention of the call, is to make a space for those who are practicing in the ways of the Order of the Sacred Earth, or in parallel ways of working to be the best lovers and defenders of the earth that we can be. And I will just sort of add, from a place of non-judgment, a place of self-acceptance, and of of joy as well as meeting the painful feelings. So it's all of it. And as you were saying, Mariko, it just feels like we can't do this work alone. We have to be in community to continue to show up and to be mirrored, and to especially when we're going through challenges like we're all facing, some more than others for sure, women more than men for sure, and other species more than humans for sure. So this is a space where you can either share what's personally on your heart. We invite you to speak from the heart, to listen from the heart. We have less humans on this call than usual, so that the good thing about that is it leaves a little bit more space for everyone to share. So, but I would say just try to keep it brief to 2 minutes or 3 minutes if there's 17 of us. I would say try to keep it to 2 minutes, but feel like you have the space to share what's core, and you also don't have to share. So we'll popcorn style, and sometimes it can feel a little awkward if there's a pause between people, but I just invite all of us to be with that and just settle into the silence in between the shares. And in that way, we found that inspiration and spirit can show up in a way that if it's more organized in a linear way, that sometimes isn't the case. So with that, I will open the circle. Oh yeah.
Announcement. I have to leave at 4:30. I have to teach in another class. So when I leave, it's nothing personal. I just have to move on. So good to be with you. And I want to welcome Jill Angelo too. I haven't seen her before in this group. But again, I don't see a face. Jill Angelo lives in the Chicago area. Among other things, rescues animals, many animals. She has a menagerie on her property. I know that. She's a great animal lover. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Matt.
Very
Thank you. I'm on satellite here, so I don't have a lot of bandwidth.
Okay,
So that's why I don't do video.
sure. But you are.
But I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Sure. Welcome. Yes. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Matt, and welcome Jill and all of you. And so before we start, I just want to invite everyone to take a moment just to settle into your breath, into your seat or wherever you may be resting, and just feeling the rise and fall of the breath. Just tuning into what feels like the most pressing, important thing to share. And then letting it go again. And coming back, and we'll open the circle now, and just want to remind everyone that the chat is also a nice feature to put any of your websites or anything that you want to share that might be of use to this community. So feel free to use that and to look at that. And the circle's open.
Can I go ahead? This is Jesse. Hey, everybody. I'm Jesse Keeler. I'm with the Orange County Pod in Orange County, California. And this past Sunday, we did a celebration at Bruce's Beach. So if you're not familiar with Bruce's Beach, it is at Manhattan Beach in Los Angeles. It was originally purchased in the 20s by a Black couple. And they had a resort there. And of course, the 20s was the height of the Ku Klux Klan, and the white community around them did not approve of having people of color. And they found a way to eventually have this city of Los Angeles basically confiscate the land, eminent domain, and took their property away. And So recently, in the past few years, the Bruce family, their property has been restored to them. The state of California has made a formal apology to the Bruce family, and that's kind of the short version of the story. It's so we decided that, and this coming week, the Los Angeles City Council is kind of going to take the next steps to make ensuring that the Bruce family, that it is legally returned to the family, that property. So we did a beach cleanup there. So the beach cleanup is where we sanctify the space, as well as then have a celebration, and did a ritual. And one of our newest members brought in her some African traditions and some of the traditions from her family, her lineage. So it was kind of just it was a special way for us to get together, and it was good. It was a good way for us to have communion and respect the earth. One of the cool things about us doing the beach cleanups is oftentimes we'll get people coming by and thanking us for what we're doing, and kind of asking what we're doing, why we're there. So this kind of leaves me, I don't want to take a lot of time, I know I only have a little bit, but I want to respectfully ask a question or bring something up, because we've been a pod for about 5 years and relatively active. One of the things that has started to come up with a conversation about us is the name, the Order of the Sacred Earth. And I say this with all respect, that when we go out in public and we do an event, sometimes the name Order of the Sacred Earth, I would say more than sometimes, it more often than not stops a conversation before the conversation even gets opened. What we've started to have a conversation about amongst our pod is there something else that we can call ourselves and still be associated with the Order of Sacred Earth. But I wanted to bring that just to the council meeting and get your thoughts on that, before we kind of move forward any further discussion. So thank you.
Hi, Jesse. I'm with Alexandra's group here right now listening, and my name is Giselle. I'm a BIPOC person. I'm an indigenous Chumash, and I'm a priestess of Yemaya within the Yoruba tradition of Lukumi from Cuba for over 20 years. And I was also somebody that was a graduate of Holy Names University when Matt was there, but not in Matt's program. I am the daughter of Dolores Rashford, who Matt will know very well, who was a sister of Holy Names. And like you, there is a struggle to decolonize many, many things, but there's also a need to be grounded and rooted in lineage and tradition. And so maybe that discomfort people have with the word order is a point to start a conversation rather than stop a conversation, because lineage and roots are very important. We have a lot of people coming to the Lukumi tradition, seeking out indigenous traditions because they don't have lineages of their own. But we also have to address that this concept of order, that this tradition that is emerging and that we are collectively creating together, that is so rooted in so many traditions, is something that's not connected with colonialism. In fact, it's seeking to reclaim that which colonial imperialism took from indigenous roots to begin with. So I think we can invite ourselves to look at ways of reclaiming words, just as Alexandra did, just as the feminist tradition did, of reclaiming words that have been taken from their original context. And also that many things that were conspiratorial in nature that are associated with the word order can also be challenges to explore and look at how those particular orders might have been misunderstood, and how in fact they were challenging the paradigms and the social constructs, and kind of had narratives and myths created about them to cloak them in negativity. So all of that is something that we can rise to the occasion to unpack with people and educate people, or rise their consciousness in understanding how this tradition really does challenge and promote decolonization of consciousness.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I'm Don Chatfield from the Champlain Order of the Sacred Earth in Shelburne, Vermont. And our pod is growing and energized around a new project. We recently received board approval to develop a new pollinator garden. And we have a lot of folks who are quite excited about doing this work that will help our pollinator friends and care for the earth. So part of what's a joy about our group is that as an interspiritual community, we have people who identify as primarily Buddhist or Christian or none of the above or Druid, and we all find a common thread in our commitment to the earth. And we also recognize that none of these paths are the only way, and we've developed a mutual respect for one another. Jesse, I'm not sure what the objection is there, if it's to the word order or the word sacred, but we found a lot of traction around finding a common commitment to how sacred Mother Earth is. And so I'm really grateful. The crew this week has been bringing supplies. We found a spot in the basement where we can start storing supplies for the garden. Another group started gathering bags of volunteer compost. And so it's just exciting to watch this blooming enthusiasm to create this pollinator garden. So that's what's happening here in Vermont. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Don. Love imagining or visualizing that. And thank you. I don't know if it was Giselle. You said your name very quickly, and I just wanted to say thank you for your words. And you might be muted.
I would love to hear some more dialogue from Jesse around that, because I think it's really important to make a connection with Indigenous people, with people that are decolonizing, with people that are trying to make authentic connections to creation, to our world, to the earth, to the cosmos, and having pathways that are accessible for them to do so, both in mind, body, and spirit. So I would love to hear some of his challenges that he's finding, because I do think one of the things that implodes an organization or implodes a movement is not having it relevant to the generations that are coming up, to not understand how to speak a language that they can interact with. So I'd really love to hear more of his thoughts around that.
Absolutely. Jesse, I also want to make sure that there's space for others in the call to share where they're at. But I really hear you, and I want to come back to, I actually personally am very interested in sort of the reclamation, reframing, curiosity around what the tension is, like who's asking the question, and if there is any power that we can reclaim in this. And if others are experiencing a similar issue, or if they have thoughts or resistances coming to the Order of the Sacred Earth. But perhaps maybe we'll invite the space for people to share a little bit, and then we'll circle back to that unless it's feeling really alive, and then we can follow. Okay, I saw a thumbs up from Skylar. So why don't we just see if there are other folks that would like to share, and then we'll come back to this really engaging, hopefully, discussion. That Mark,
Well, I can share. This is my only second time here,
welcome back.
but and I'm loving listening to everybody is so articulate, and I'm just loving it. And learning. And you know, and this is may sound, you might get a good chuckle out of this, but I got the book, and this is like all brand new to me, and I'm like, oh, the Order of the Sacred Earth. Like, okay, well, how about the sacred galaxies that are around? How about the Order of the Sacred Universe? And how could we expand our consciousness beyond, of course, the very close relationship we have with the earth, to to advance to the higher realms of consciousness. So anyway, that's something that came to my mind.
Thank you for joining us again, Joan, and for your reflections. And Margaret, I think I saw your hand. Would you like to share next?
Thank you. I'm glad that Joan went first, though. I was inspired by the comments from Alexandra's friend about just people who are trying to access all of the things, so in the discussion about the use of the word order, I suppose, but just to the longing that seems to be, in so many people's hearts, and that it is the cosmos, it is the universe. So I wanted to say, first of all, that for me right now, what I'm grateful for is that light that is really making itself known and present, even in this darkness, that we're experiencing. And for me, personally, it's just been a really long, dark winter of a lot of loss. And I didn't believe really that quite literally, I didn't believe that I was really going to make it through. And right now there's just this real amazing gift, that's happening around things that have always been important to me, that I thought I was never going to be able to find the energy to pursue anymore. And so I wanted to just focus on one happy thing that's just making itself really well known in all the action that we want to do, is this effort. I'm in West Virginia. I don't have a pod. I'm not part of a pod. I'm very rural and disconnected, but connected to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. And it seems like everybody is finding one another. And there's a happy coincidence of people interested in bread and sharing bread and trying to find a new economy around bread. People who are retiring from the bakery business, as independent bakers. People who are taking up the vocation of miller and wheat growers, and trying to come together and create a little new economy around food and locally produced food and that kind of thing. So there's just a lot happening in my little world. And I just really want to be grateful for this group that I say kind of came really as part of the miracle of a very hard winter. And I look forward to having a pod the next time, being able to say that I'm part of a pod. Anyway, I'm just very thankful for all of you and the conversations. And actually, when I tried to tell somebody about my experience about finding you all, and said the Order of the Sacred Earth, they go, that's an interesting title. So I think it probably does merit discussion. Thank you all so much.
I love that, Margaret. Just hearing you brought a smile to my face, and the idea of bread and the happy coincidences. And I don't know if it's just the heaviness of this week and everything going on, but I just feel so nourished. And like there's this like radical like joy. Like I'm like, how is it so powerful? And just hearing you, I feel inspired. I feel that in my body right now. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Well, I don't mind sharing really quickly. Again, I'm Joe here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I'm sort of on my own, although I don't have a pod. We do have a green team in our town, as well as a couple of other green organizations. So I'm not alone. I'm very grateful to say a couple things developed for me this year. I'm 6 months into my first year of native gardening. And I am happy to say that although not all the plants survived, quite a few have. We've got, a couple dozen native flowers, as well as a blueberry bush here in our yard, which are helping to nourish the bees and butterflies and birds and bats of the local ecosystem. So I'm finally starting to make a contribution to help, revitalize rather than take away. And there's joy in that. And then I'm growing my own dandelion plants in a pot, and I have been adding the leaves to my diet, which, there's a connection. I mean, you can go to the store and buy all the food in plastic you want, but when you're growing your own food, it creates an intimacy with the earth around you. That's kind of beautiful, I'm glad to say. I'm also glad to report that my pastor at our local Catholic church has given me supportive responses. He enabled me to set up a table at the parish picnic we had in April, and I had flyers on eco-friendly lifestyles as well as native gardening. So I was able to kind of spread the word, and that's a really joy. So I've got lots of thanks to give, and I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Joe. Just loving the gratitude that I'm hearing. So the thread that's we've woven through. Thank you and congratulations. That's wonderful. And Jill's box has lit up. Jill, I don't know if you're trying to speak, but you are muted.
No, I'm just listening and trying to move around my phone. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no worries.
I can go. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz. I'm here in Calgary, Canada, near the Rockies. And I don't have a Order of the Sacred Earth pod exactly, but I've been collaborating with a group here called Green Exodus. And yeah, with some success, although I think some of the things are needing a bit of ironing out. But I just completed the Deep Time Leadership program and developed this project with all these contemplative learning sessions that involve learning and then going outside sort of to deepen the learning in an embodied way. So I just through Green Exodus just put out the first session on Teilhard de Chardin, and had a lot of attendance, which was great. And for the content, and then the outdoor part, it was interesting. So many people canceled out at the last minute, and but some did come, and we spent half a day at a conservation area with a sort of Teilhard inspired outdoor experience. And I just thought I guess what I'm noticing as I try to do this work and implement it is how much resistance there is to actually being outside in an embodied way, in an embodied spiritual way. And I just, yeah, so I don't really know what to do about that, but yeah, just the way our culture, we're so in our heads, and when that invitation is there to actually interact embodied on the land or with the water and so forth, people just find it so intimidating and weird or something like that. So and I know it's key for our transforming our consciousness. So yeah, I'm just sort of stepping into some leadership in that area, and I've always connected with the Order of the Sacred Earth, your book, and actually the name Order of the Sacred Earth, because I love and feel quite sort of new monastic in a contemplative way. And yeah, I'm so happy to name the earth as sacred. And I think that's been my journey, is to be just trying to open and see, not just intellectually know, but see with my eyes all the time, the sacred earth. So thanks for listening. Nice to connect with all of you.
Thank you, Liz. Love the embodiment. And Julie, I think I saw your hand. Did you want to share?
I did. I wanted to respond to what Liz said. And I am from Iowa, and was a part of, we had a pod early on, and then I'm part of a group called the Interfaith Green Coalition, which has expanded, and many of us read the Order of the Sacred Earth and met and talked about things that we wanted to pursue. But what's happened, I mean, it's become a more political group, which is fine. But the thing that I've noticed for me, it has been, and I don't have a big garden space, but I've got a backyard that is just pretty wild. And I've noticed how, I mean, it's just been comforting me and teaching me, and particularly in this time, I've been so aware of how much joy and comfort I get from that wildness that is there, and the birds that seem to just love being in the wild. And just, I mean, it's almost a dance, you know, the morning kind of looks like this, you know, the birds flying in and out of the branches, and so as things have been so hard to, the earth or the world around us seems so full of chaos. That's where I find such incredible peace and joy, and it's a little bit, Liz, like what you were talking about, but just being out there and walking barefoot in the ajuga plants, just walking barefoot and feeling them on my feet, and watching the birds do that wild kind of dance. And it takes me to another place. So it's what I've loved is listening to all of you talk about, I mean, you're growing things, you're doing gardening, but there's another piece of this earth that can fill us with a joy. And I keep thinking of Rumi's poem, out beyond wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. And when I say that, tears just come up, because that's what it means to me to come and be with you like this. I'll meet you there. And that we know that it has something to do with life and love and food and all of those things that you've been talking about. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Julie. Really loving that quote. I really needed to hear that today. Thank you. I'm also just noticing the time. We are about 8 minutes from our close. And I know we haven't heard from all of the folks, and we also have a pretty engaging potential discussion. I just kind of want to throw this back over to Skylar, the rest of the council, and see what we'd like to do with this last few minutes that we have together.
Thank you, Mariko, and thank you all for sharing so deeply. I feel very touched, and and like the meaning and of this community, like that field that you were just describing, Julie, is the point of this. But yeah, so I'm wondering, I'm okay to go over about 5 or 10 minutes for myself, to have time for this juicy discussion. So I'm happy to stay on, for those who can stay. And I think I would just do like a last call. If there's anyone who has like a burning thing to say before we continue the discussion that's kind of popped around today, but it feels very potent and I want to go straight into it. But welcome anyone who wants to speak about maybe one last thing. Okay, so I think we can go into the discussion, and yeah, so I'd love to pass it back to you, Jesse, just to yeah, to hear more of your thoughts. And I mean, before I pass it, I'll just say this conversation about the name and having lots of strong feelings from lots of different people has been part of this from the beginning, before we even wrote the book. And we had a lot of people who thought it should be a different name, including making it about the universe, the cosmos. And there were reasons that we chose to keep it, to name it that. And so that being said, I think it also feels like the question I ask is, what's challenging and what's potent, and how do we keep the potency and meet the challenge without making things overly hard for ourselves? Like if nobody shows up to an event because it's called something that whoever you're catering to isn't able to receive or understand the language, then there's something missed in that. But if it's people will show up, I do remember you saying it stops the conversation before it gets started. So I'm really curious about that and what the context is, but really want to support you in doing whatever's best for your own, for you and for your own group and for the work that you're doing, because the work you're doing is so important.
I appreciate that, Skylar. I'm trying to decide where to start with this. This is a really rich conversation, and I do have an appreciation for the name, the Order of the Sacred Earth, and personally, and it's helped me to kind of dive into these ideas of what is order in nature, what is sacred. So, but I'm willing to go there, and that's kind of the nature of who I am. That's what drew me there and drew me to this practice. My spiritual practice. Let me give you a concrete example of one thing that happened. For example, when we to do our event this past weekend, we had to get a permit from Los Angeles, like a beach permit. And we had to get actually 2 permits because turns out that we're doing the beach cleanup. We need a permit for that. But because we were doing a religious event, we had to get another permit for that. So that's an example of kind of like what we're doing, how that is received by the secular world. And in this call, I know that there's a lot of people that we're on a path, we're on a spiritual path, and we might be coming from different directions, but we're on that path together. And so I'm making a generalization. There's a tendency to be receptive to those ideas of what is sacred. I don't come from a Catholic tradition, so I've kind of had to learn about the concept of the order. When I'm out in the world, and this is something that I appreciated Liz saying was, I think as a group, our pod's been trying to get out of our heads and get out in the world and do something and make it real, like have a real practice, put things into practice, not just talk about it. And when we go out in the world, and the beach cleanups have been a great example of this. People come up to us and are grateful for what we're doing, but they're also, I sense a hunger from people who want to do something right now, get out of their heads, do something concrete, make a change. And a part of what our pod's been doing as well is how do you make changes from where you're at in your individual life, no matter how small that is, how insignificant that might seem, but beginning that change from yourself and sharing that with those in our community. And I think what I'm seeking is I want to have those deeper conversations like Giselle was brought up. But when I'm out in the world and people are coming from a more secular perspective, I think that it's like you say the word order, that might go flying by them, but you hear the word sacred, and they don't know what to do with that any more than we know what to do with the word evil in our society. So I would like it that my fellow pod members, when they go out in the world, that they're really comfortable when people say, oh, hey, you went to a beach cleanup, who do you do the beach cleanup with? They're really comfortable sharing that name with people. They don't kind of hold back and, some people think it sounds kind of cultish, for example. And I'm trying to be really respectful. I wouldn't be you accepted as that, Skylar. I would like there to be some way that we identified ourselves that was like an opening for people so we could have that conversation, and then we can go into the deeper conversation with them. But we have to get them to not just to the door, we have to get them through the threshold of that so we can have that deeper conversation. I don't know if I'm making any sense or not. So.
Yeah, you are, and I would love to respond, but I also want to make space for others. So I'll hold my response for now, but I'm happy to share it if there isn't time right now. Share it with you personally.
Same. Yeah, I would love to. Kim, I saw your hand, but I also feel like we all probably have things that we'd love to share. So go ahead, Kim. And then maybe Jesse, if you wanted to put your email in the chat for people that might have to leave. That way people can reach out to you directly. And then maybe we can flag this for part 2 for next month, because I think that this is worth spending time on. So go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, Jesse, when you were talking, that's all I could think of, as people are kind of like needing a bridge is what I hear, to walk over. It's also like, wow, we've come so far, or some of us have come so far from this word and from the sacred. It almost doesn't surprise me one bit, in that the more that we actually say it, that we're building that bridge. I guess that's a question, like, how do we build the bridge back to the sacred, for people that need more of a bridge, and what kind of bridge does each person need? And so I just love the conversation too. That's all I have to say. It's really a question of like, what is the bridge that I need to build, to have people enter the sacred again when they've come far from it, and the culture and the world has come far from it. And I just hope this group, and the more that we say it, the more we'll be giving a chance to build that bridge. Appreciating this conversation.
So Jesse, I'm looking at context too, and you're talking about Southern California, right? And Southern California has a big history of cults and cults that have gone by the word order as part of that title. And some of them have done pretty far out, fantastic things, but most of them haven't. And so there's kind of, for lack of a better word, an archetype image that's very specific to both Northern and Southern California, but particularly Southern California, that there's nothing you can do to fight that. That's just something that I think people have to work through. And, I think also it's important to understand somewhere in your own autopoiesis and in your collective pod's autopoiesis, what that means for you. And once you understand and are grounded in what the charism of this particular sacred order is, then you are much more comfortable in engaging with that and explaining intent and purpose. And when we're still exploring what that means for us collectively and individually, there's a lot of edges and stretches and comfort zones that we encounter as we're processing and integrating. So what you're going through individually and what your pod is going through, when they encounter somebody else and they go, or they feel uncomfortable, could be that deepening journey of what this all means for you. And I think that's a really good place to be. And I think there's so many levels of this discussion that we can explore collectively and consciously and socially, and that, has been explored in the book as well. So, yeah.
I would just say that I've been in 2 pods so far, and what I've experienced in both pods is that doing work to protect Mother Earth is exhausting. And many people are seeking a place of sanctuary and refuge to draw spiritual strength, to replenish, to continue doing that work. And so in our pod, I think the name draws people who are on a spiritual path to know that they can receive that nourishment with us. I would also say that I think, our experience has been that sometimes public facing events, we may not use the name Order of the Sacred Earth. There's a big event here in Vermont every year called Green Up Day. And we do Green Up Day events, and we don't necessarily tie the order to it. So I would just say from our perspective, our target audience are people on a path who need a place to recharge and continue doing this work.
Thank you, Don. And I'll just chime in that, yeah, there's different, like I've seen in the chat, different contexts. And we created the Order of the Sacred Earth out of a feeling of just what Don was saying, and like a need to come together, and for the ones who do have access to spirituality, to the sacred, to that sense, and are sensitive in many ways as a result, and also feel the need for real hard activism, for that to be able to be bridged. For those who aren't engaged in either of those worlds, I could see it as being a bigger conversation than you could just have in a 30-second pitch on a beach or something like that. So I was thinking, Don literally said what part of my response, which was that was going to be, which was that you don't necessarily have to call the beach cleanups the Order of the Sacred Earth if it means getting another permit. It can just be led by the spirit of the Order of the Sacred Earth, and then it could be open to anybody, people who don't feel comfortable with the Order of the Sacred Earth, to clean up the beach. So that's a great example. Does anyone else feel like they need to dying to say something else before we close? And I will say that we can definitely bring this up into the next meeting too, because it does feel like it's timely and potent conversation.
I just want to add like one quick thing, and I'll be quick, is just around confidence. And I think we started when, I think she's not on the call anymore, but around taking the vow and sort of all the preparation that goes into making that commitment to the earth. And like that vow is so sacred. Like you made that vow and you know what it's called, in your heart, like what your purpose and what that dedication feels like. And that name will never change, like that thing doesn't change, but you can express that in different ways. So I'm seeing it in my life in multiple different ways, but I don't want to apologize or be fearful of who I am and what I'm committed to. But I will change or like morph. It's kind of a little bit of like alchemy magic around like, how can I get through to somebody that doesn't speak the same language as me? How can I relate to them on a frequency that they're vibing at? Like, and I can raise or lower myself within a certain parameter to meet them there. And anyhow, I just wanted to say, maybe there's a way that you can tap in or find comfort or confidence in what you're doing that'll allow you to feel more empowered when you are having those conversations. And not everybody is ready to have those conversations. And I think that's another lifelong lesson that I'm continuously learning, where I'm like, okay, maybe this wasn't the interaction that I needed. We weren't the right fit. And that sucks right now, but maybe down the road, I will have inspired something that will open them later. Or maybe they won't, that's their path. But I'm continuing on mine and doing the work that I know I'm here to do too. I just wanted to add that little piece. Thanks.
No, thank you for all the input, and I really appreciate the conversation and opening it up. It's very helpful to hear all everybody's input, perspectives.
I'm so grateful you brought it up.
Same. Thank you, Jessie. It's a little scary to name those questions into the space, but grateful for that vulnerability and for everybody for showing up for the convo. I guess with that, we'll conclude. So thank you all for staying a little bit after and for sharing this beautiful new moon space together. Let's plant some new seeds of what we want to see happening in the world. And Skylar, would you like to say any last words to close us out?
Ho, Ashe. Love you all. I deeply love this space and am grateful for to have community like you all and to have the technology to connect in all the ways that we do, even amidst the challenges. And yeah, lots of love. Bye.
Lots of love.